Hello, this is Steve Troesser, channel agronomist from Missouri. And today I got to look at some soybeans and just looking at weed control. And we're going to take a look at just how the things are growing and where we're at on stage. So just let's see what we find. So here's our soybean field. As you can see, the first thing I notice as I look across the canopy, it almost looks like the leaves are flipped over. And honestly, what's going on is we've got a field here that's got a little bit of drought stress, and it's just really hot. So the little beaners don't like it very much. When those beans look like they flopped over, they're actually trying to stand up. That's the bean leaf trying to get defensive, so there's less surface area for the sun to hit. It's respirating faster than what is pulling up moisture. So in a defensive method, as you can see across the canopy, is trying to pull that leaf up in a manner at which it's not catching as much sun. So in a vertical instead of a horizontal leaf layer. So that's the first thing I see in the soybean field. So as we look into the canopy of these soybeans, pull back. And there we do. Right there, we see the flowers. So this soybean plant is in the R1 stage. So as we take a closer look at this soybean plant, if we look at again, there's the whole plant. If we look at the bottom side, and we look at the bottom nodes, as you can see, the flowering just started, but there's some flowers that have already gone through the process and have turned brown. Now today we don't know whether that brown bud is going to turn into a pod or not. The soybean plant puts on many flowers and then aborts more than half. In fact, closer to 75%. That's its mechanism, its flex piece, or whatever you want to call that, which a soybean allows for itself to put lots of flowers on and decide what the yield's going to be. But again, we're just barely starting to see some of these beans, some of these pods, just on the verge of maybe putting a pod on. The other thing I noticed on the bottom leaves as well, these are on the very bottom leaves, are some discoloration, some yellowing, and some spots. These bottom leaves are in the shade. The plant's actually about ready to let these things go. They're not getting any sun, so why put any nutrients into them? Once that soybean plant decides to let go of those soybean leaves on the bottom, Septoria brown spot takes advantage of that weaker leaf and will start coming into those bottom leaves. It's the same process as when we start dropping leaves in the fall. Same kind of yellowing, same kind of little bit of Septoria brown spot that comes in. I also noticed, I didn't dig these plants up, I just ripped them out of the ground, so even at that, we see nodules galore. So this soybean plant has done an excellent job setting nodules so that we can fix nitrogen. Again, if we look at that color real closely, there's some good color in there. So excellent nodule fixation. Here's another soybean plant from a field down the road. I pulled the leaves off so they wouldn't get in the way of the camera. But you can see right at that node, we've had flowers there. This is in the bottom part of the plant. We've had flowers there, they've already pollinated. And we've gotten to the point that we find right there, we have our first pod set. If we go down the node, we can see there's another pod. So, the difference between this plant and the one we looked at earlier is the difference between R1 and R2. And that's a pretty important distinction to be made. There are some herbicides at which, at the end of R1, we stop applying. So something to take account to once we see those pods. It's time to really check our herbicide labels and see if there's a herbicide that we can't apply at the R2 stage.